Hello guys, and welcome back to day 5 at Robben Island. So today we started off, as you can see, by my beautiful wife standing by some statues, and these statues symbolize the four Nobel Peace Prize winners in South Africa. So the furthest one to the left, going to the right, was Albert Lutuli, and then followed by Desmond Tutu, Nelson Mandela, and Frederick de Klerk. So yeah, as you can see, the last statue here is my good friend Nelson Mandela. Slightly taller than me, but it doesn't really matter. I'm better looking. But yeah, this day was just filled with a lot of information. Too much information to fill in this one video that it's something that you'd have to do in your own time to research. And me and Shana learnt a lot more on this one day than we have done in the whole trip itself. So yeah, to get to Robben Island, we had to get on this boat right here, and it took roughly about 30 minutes to get across. And the waters weren't too bad leaving. It's just coming back was choppy waters you can expect, not good for the faint-hearted. And you can see here from my wife that she just realised that she gets seasick and she's not looking forward to the journey. But we get to the island, and as you can expect, it's a nice sunny, not so windy, clear blue waters. And so as you get onto the island, you're taken around on these buses, and these buses have tour guides on there that explain to you the island. And the first place we stopped off was a small pound where a prisoner was kept with the dogs, and he was the only prisoner on the island, and the prisoner was called Robert Sobukwe. So here's his book. So a lot of information said about Robert Sobukwe. So the first ones I remember was Robert Sobukwe was the first person that told South Africans, black South Africans, to not walk around with a Don Pass. But a Don Pass is basically a permit that allowed black people into town areas in between certain times. And if you didn't have this permit, you'd get a fine or arrested. And he was telling people not to take him about, as well as raising awareness of the apartheid to people that weren't from South Africa itself. These were the mines that the prisoners were told that they'd be working for 6 months, and 6 months turned into 13 years. These stack of rocks there in the middle, you can see, were put there by Nelson Mandela when he went back to the island, and he was just there quiet whilst everyone was celebrating and having a reminiscing party for him. He stood there, picked up a rock and placed it in the middle of that quarry. And everyone else noticed. They stopped the party, everyone went quiet, and then everyone else started placing the rocks on top of that. And that symbolised a unique moment of what the place had done to him. So these were the new prisons built by the new prisoners themselves. But before they built these new prisons, they had to remove what was currently on the site, which were graves. So when they removed the graves, they started building the new prisons on site. And there was different sections of the prison, as you can imagine, of all prisons, where there's the least dangerous criminals to the most dangerous criminals. And the ones that were seen as most dangerous in different ways only had 2 visits a year for 30 minutes. And those visits were only allowed under supervision of a guard being on site. And if there was a guard, you were only allowed to speak English or Afrikaans. But if you couldn't speak either of those languages, you had to sit there in pure silence and just look at your visitor and appreciate each other being there. And here we approach the prison cell that was Nelson Mandela's. Nelson Mandela was prisoner 466/64, which meant that he was the 466th prisoner in 1964. And for 23 hours a day, he was sent to the cell by himself, and that small space is meant to be punishment for resisting such an inhumane law of the apartheid. Yeah, as we came to Cape Town again, we saw 2 seals, and we managed to just about capture the tip of this one seal as we pulled up onto the mainland. But what we experienced on this trip to Robben Island Museum was just a scratch of the surface of what South Africans have faced, and it's still in our lifetime, which is the crazy part. And I hope many people learn a lot from this. But let this not break our spirits of what we want to achieve, and all be happy to carry on going.